Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang channel. Thanks for joining me once again. Before I get into today's review, I do want to mention if you'd like to support the Gaming Gang, we do have a Patreon. That link is in the show notes. If you want to make a one-time donation in support, we do have a PayPal link also in the show notes. And of course, if you'd like to hang with the gang over on Discord, shockingly enough, there is an invite link to our server in the show notes. So I am going to be kicking off our Wrath and Glory Weekend Plus with my review of Warhammer 40,000 Roleplay Wrath and Glory Aeldari Inheritance of Embers from our friends over at Cubicle 7 Games. This 160-page hardcover with PDF is available now, carries an MSRP of $44.99, or if you want to grab just the PDF alone, you can do so over at DriveThruRPG for $19.99. Having said all that, let's swing on over to the other camera because here I've got Aeldari Inheritance of Embers. A couple of things I want to mention before we jump on in. First of all, my friends over at Cubicle 7 Games were kind enough to provide me with this review copy, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this review with you. It's important you know that. We're also not going to look at each and every page of the book, but I do want to give you a really good feel for what you're going to find inside. First thing we're going to do is take a peek at the credits page. A lot of folks worked very hard to bring this to life. So let's give credit where credit is due. So, of course, this is the Aeldari source book for the Wrath and Glory role-playing game. And I have to point out, normally these supplements are 128 pages in length. This is a supersized book. We get 160 pages in this hardcover. And it is going to focus on the 4 unique factions within the Aeldari. So we've got the Aeldari themselves, we've got the Drakari, as well as the Harlequins and Corsairs. I've got to say, I have always found the Aeldari, or I guess I should say back when I played Warhammer 40K a little bit, and mostly a lot of Epic, the Eldar, as we referred to them, they've always been my favorite of the factions with Warhammer 40,000. Now, I will point out I am not overly familiar with the more recent editions of the miniatures game. So I do know there are a lot of other factions that have been introduced over the decades. But I just always loved the Eldar or Aeldari because they had such a cool backstory and they had such really unique characters and very unique models. And of course, that is reflected in Inheritance of Embers also, as we're going to see a lot of archetypes from the Aeldari, the Drakari here. And then, of course, as I mentioned, we've got the Harlequins as well as the Corsairs. And each of these factions is very unique. They're very different from one another, such as the Drakari tend to be, I don't want to necessarily say they're evil, but they are a far darker force in the galaxy as opposed to, say, the Aeldari. But as you can see, artwork throughout is fantastic, and we've got a lot of it too. I got to say, Warhammer 40K Roleplay Wrath and Glory is a really cool role-playing game, and I don't think enough people give this a shot because I think they're kind of scared off because it is Warhammer 40K, and there is a lot of lore involved with Warhammer 40K, most certainly, although you really don't need to know any of it to get involved with Wrath and Glory. And there is also a fantastic starter set for Wrath and Glory for you to even just dip your toes in to see if this might be something that you want to dive a little deeper into. But as far as the support that Wrath and Glory gets from Cubicle 7 Games, it is exceptional. It really is. And funny enough, Wrath and Glory was not designed in-house for Cubicle 7 Games. So I always give them kudos for the fantastic work they've done with this role-playing game after they picked up the ball with it and just took off running. So really, really well done here. So we're going to get the information about the archetypes. So keep in mind, Aeldari Inheritance of Embers is set up for player characters to be Aeldari. So this is not kind of a bestiary sort of book like we see with the threat assessments. This is really a supplement to allow the players to take on the roles of Aeldari at your game table, and of course, to allow the game master to really bring the Aeldari to the forefront of their adventure campaigns. So we'll have the archetypes. We're going to get gear. We're going to get information about the craft world, because of course, the Gilead sector does have a craft world present. That's how we have our Aeldari there. And of course, if you're not overly familiar with the setting of Wrath and Glory, it all takes place in the Gilead system, which has been cut off from the rest of the universe. And you find that the various different factions are stuck working together. So there are some very unusual bedfellows involved in Wrath and Glory, because our big bad, of course, are the dark gods, the forces of chaos. We're going to get information about each of the factions to kind of wrap up. They're going to give us some plot hooks, as well as important movers and shakers, which can be utilized as patrons for the characters or as nemeses for the characters as well. Funny enough, our Game Master section of the book is pretty short. There isn't a ton involved here. It's more along the lines of trying to set expectations for a game campaign that's focused on the Aeldari, as well as what sort of themes that you would want to include in your campaign to really bring that forward also. As far as the production quality, excellent, nice paper stock here. As you can see, the artwork throughout is really nicely done. Of course, we do have stitched binding, so this is going to hold up very nicely at your game table. So that is a peek inside Aeldari Inheritance of Embers. Let's swing back over to the other camera so I can share some final thoughts, as well as my review score. As I've mentioned already, I've always been a huge fan of the Eldar, or as they're referred to now, the Aeldari, dating all the way back to when I played a little bit of Warhammer 40,000 and a whole ton of the epic style miniatures, which back when I got started, I want to say it was entitled Adeptus Titanicus and Space Marine. And then I think it was just referred to as Space Marine for quite a while. And then it was no longer available. Then it came back, and I think it wasn't available again. And I think the 6mm is back. I don't know for sure. I don't follow too closely what goes on with Games Workshop. But regardless, I've always loved the Aeldari, and this supplement for Wrath and Glory is excellent. It is absolutely packed with content the Game Master is going to be able to use at the game table. This isn't just a big book full of fluff. We've got tons of archetypes, equipment, vehicles, gear, and so forth. We get information about each of the 4 unique factions within the Aeldari and what they focus on and what makes them very unique and different from one another. I do wish that we had a starter adventure, a basic introductory adventure here, just to give Game Masters maybe a little better feel for how to get an Aeldari-focused campaign off and running. Now, I do know at this point in time, there is an Aeldari adventure available. I want to say I think it's only out in PDF right now. which focuses on the Aeldari. So, regardless, there is some adventuring out there for this faction, but I would have liked to have seen, even if it was 5-6 pages in length, an adventure here in this book. Now, of course, if you want the Aeldari to be a major focus of a Wrath and Glory campaign, this book is a must-have. You really, really do want to add it to your game mastering collection. Now, if you could take or leave the Aeldari, or maybe you're just sort of like, yeah, okay, that's a cool faction to have in the Gilead system, but I don't necessarily need to have a main focus on them, well, then this probably isn't a must-own for you. But I do think this is an excellent book. The production quality is top-notch, as we normally will see from Cubicle 7 games, and it's absolutely packed with content. So I like it a lot, and that's why I'm going to give Warhammer 40,000 Roleplay Wrath and Glory Aeldari Inheritance of Embers, say that 5 times fast, an 8.5 out of 10. I enjoyed it quite a bit. The Aeldari are still my favorite faction that I'm aware of in the Warhammer 40K universe. And if you are interested in focusing on the Aeldari in your campaigns, this is going to be a must-own. All right, that is it for this time out. If you liked the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell. Will not only let you know when I share videos such as this review, it'll also inform you when my live stream, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, airs Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. And of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to swing on over to thegaminggang.com for all the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Keep your eyes peeled because I have got more reviews for our Wrath and Glory Weekend Plus. And I'm Jeff McAleer. Thank you very much for watching. And until I see you next time, I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.